Looking for some music. I want to put on that tuning forks that Wayne Dyer had on last night. They were awesome. Let's see if we're live. Are we live? Nope.
Well, I just got the notification. I think we are.
Alrighty.
Yeah, we are live, actually. Yep.
Q&A. It's so confusing. We have too many groups. I have too many groups. I have too many pages. I have too many.
You have too many minis?
I have too many minis. How's everybody doing tonight? We said we would be back, so here we are.
Yeah, sorry about the time change. There's this thing called life, and it happens.
We both just got home from work. Like, we kind of just got settled and sat down. But we wanted to come back, and Mike wanted to close up his conversation about the Koans and hopefully get some feedback from you guys. And if nobody decides to join live, then that's cool. Just comment on the replay, and we will conversate in the comments. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good.
And if anybody has any questions, please feel free to leave them or message one of us. Yeah, that's cool. I'll put on some music.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm gonna go back. Here we go.
We'll hang out for a little bit.
Yeah, we'll hang out for a little bit.
It's
sure.
Still early.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the answers, though. I'm very curious. Great, everything is working perfectly. Awesome. All right, so which I'm gonna wait a little bit for. Not long, but yeah, we'll give it a few minutes and see.
Let us know you can see us, hear us.
Yeah, please
say hi. Let us know who we're talking to.
Yeah, drop a comment, please, so we know that you guys can hear us. Okay.
Oh, I know what I want to play. That's a pretty music.
Yeah.
Today was long.
It was. It was a very long day. So yeah, anybody listening, if you could just drop a comment, and if you are watching, there is a link above the video. Click on that so that we can get your name as well. That way we know who we are talking to.
We'll be able to see it when we come back to the group, but we won't be able to see who we're talking to live.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing.
You just got to click on the blue link above this video. So if you pop out of this video and you click the blue link that says StreamYard, and if you just put your name in there and then come back, your name will show up so we can see who we're talking to.
Yeah.
How's it going, guys? How's everybody doing tonight? We just got home from work and sat down. We were a little late getting home tonight. That's why I pushed it back to 8:30 instead of 8:15 instead of 7:30.
Yeah.
Is anybody here that was here last night?
We got some people go. All right.
Yeah, give them a minute to catch up.
Yep. Yeah. To anybody new who didn't hear us initially, yeah, just click on the blue link above the video, so that we can see your name when you comment. That way we know who we are talking to, and if you could just drop a comment right now for us. Let us know that you can hear us.
Yeah, we didn't check the sound.
Yeah. So just.
Let's hope this is loud. Recording just got back.
Sometimes things, have a mind of their own. They don't want to work. It's strange how sometimes things. Okay.
Hi, Bree. How are you? This is the first time she's been on one of our lives, I think.
Oh well, welcome.
Yeah,
Bree.
the replays are in the group, so help yourself. They'll be there till probably Sunday night.
Let me pull something up real quick on my phone.
If you want to check them out.
In regards for tonight.
Yesterday we did a meditation. I did a meditation. We did a quantum jump meditation, which I really liked.
Okay. I'm just pulling up the information for the
awesome
on the subject of koans, which we'll do shortly. If anybody here has was on my live, a couple nights ago, I gave you guys 3 koans.
Tell them what koans are, because I didn't know what they were.
So koans, it's a Zen Buddhism type of paradoxical spiritual practice. It's spelled Koans. Koans are one of the most meaningful practices in Zen Buddhism, usually translated as nonsensical. The sentences have much greater purpose. Breaking beyond concepts in meditation is a driving factor of the koan. And I gave, maybe if you were here, I gave them to you. If you weren't here, I can go over them.
It's basically Zen Buddhist comedy. Yeah, comedy for Zen Buddhists. It's like monk comedy. It makes you think.
It's very fun because it challenges the way in which you conceptualize things. We depend too much on words. We are hypnotized by our
words or spells,
our grammar.
Words or spells.
And we depend on them a little bit too literally, because really what we're using as words, the vehicle of words and the vehicle of concepts, is a clumsy one. So the thing is to kind of rise above that, to becoming, to arrive rather at a higher understanding about things that really isn't based on the concepts given to you, but to use them basically as a stepping ladder to get above them. It's a very fun practice if you have the patience. Time is also a factor. Time is very hard to find these days, to have time to yourself to sit in silence and enjoy having moments of that kind of silence and that kind of isolation. It's hard to have that. So that's why I wanted to give you guys 48 hours to go over this information and work on it whenever you had a free moment too. So does anybody here was anybody here not part of the last couple of master classes where I went over the koans?
We don't say good morning, we say good day. There's lots of other words we don't use anymore.
That's very true.
I say, yeah, I try to be particular about some words, but there's some slang words that I talked myself out of using. Like I got used to not using. Like I'm from Philly, and people say certain words so funny where I'm from, and it's almost like I've taught myself to not sound like I'm from there so much, because it's really obvious if you talk like that. There's certain words that I try not to say water. I try to say water. Like I've kind of broken the habit of saying certain words like that. But yeah, I try not to say shouldn't or can't. But it's tough.
Really?
I try not to. It's not good. It's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. Yeah.
Shouldn't is the one I really try not to use. I say can't a lot when I need help.
So, Bree, since you're here and you were not here previously to hear what the koans were.
Yeah, read them to her, see what she thinks. Ask her one at a time, so she's not thinking about all this. That's a lot. It's a mouthful. They're a mouthful.
That's exactly what I was going to do. Yeah, because that's the thing with people is you have to take your time, right? You have to take your time with introducing new types of information to people, because if you overload them with information, like they just shut down, right? Like, I mean, it's not so much. Some people say, like, well, people just don't have the attention these days. It's really, I mean, to a point, yeah, that it's slightly accurate, but really what it is we haven't been taught to sit and learn what patience actually is and what it takes to acquire.
I'm awful. I'm better than I was.
About you specifically.
I am,
but
I am
mentioning.
I'm so impatient. I can't help it.
That, when it comes to these things, but like if you are familiar with meditation, then these kinds of things will be fun because you understand what it takes to have the patience to contemplate. And deep contemplation is the point of what a koan is. So the first koan is two hands that clap make a sound. What is the sound of one hand? That's the first one. What is the sound of one hand?
What is the sound of one hand clapping without sound? Is that what it is?
No. Two hands clap. There is sound.
Right.
So what is the sound of one hand? The second one is without speaking, without silence.
That one got me.
How can you express the truth? One more time. Without speaking, without silence. How can one express the truth?
I thought silence too, Brie. That's exactly what I thought. Or like, the wind. Like, yeah, that was my thought too. I mean, that's probably where a lot of people's minds would go. A facial expression, body language, yeah. So it could be communication telepathically. But I mean, I guess it's not necessarily a sound, though.
Right. The thing is, it's not about what you conceptualize. I mean, if you said facial expressions, okay, actually, real quick, I'm going to go a little off topic now that I've given two of them. I got one more to read, but there's a really great story that I love.
Take your time.
It's a story of a monastery, a Buddhist monastery that they were getting overloads of students at this monastery. And there wasn't enough masters to teach the amount of students that they had. So they had to find amongst the students one of them with the sharp intellectual skills that could read through. They don't call it koans in like the Tao and and Buddhism based in China. Koans is actually a Japanese style of.
It's not Tibetan Buddhism.
Yeah. So there, and at this particular monastery in China, they had to use their own specific technique in order to net or to filter through the students that they had to see who was capable of the skills to become a master quickly. So getting to the story, a master sat down with amongst several students this one day and placed a pitcher, like a bucket, and so he played. That's what they call it, in the mountains. We call it like a plastic pitcher of water. We call that a pitcher. To them, that they have like more like the buckets, the wooden buckets. So he placed that pitcher down in front of the students, and they start, and he says to them, without telling me what it is, what is it?
Concepts, man.
And the one of the students says, well,
kind of.
Well, one of the students says, well, it isn't a piece of wood. And that wasn't the answer. And several of them continued to try to give their their answers without actually answering. And nobody was getting it right. Finally, during this practice, what would be considered a koan in Japan, the chef for that monastery was walking by. And he heard what they were doing, the practice. So he walked up to where the pitcher was and he kicked it over. And he got the job as the master. So why do you think he got the job? Like, what was the answer the teacher was looking for? And why was kicking the pitcher over the answer that the teacher was looking for? Like, so, it's contemplating that. And if I may, like, because I'm not going to really go over the 3 koans that I have tonight, but for me, the answer really was empty. It was emptiness. But without telling him that it was empty, he kicked over what should have been filled with water. So the answer...
Bree said she's lost. I don't blame you, Bree. I'm the same way. I was lost too. It really was. Oh, makes sense.
So
because he thought because it was supposed to have water in it, you mean?
Yeah, it was a pitcher without water in it. But when he kicked it over, yeah, the pitcher was empty. But it's one of those things, where it's obvious, but it feels really only obvious until after you understand it, or after you arrive. You're like, it's like one of those like epiphany moments. You're like, oh, like, duh, like, and
word problems do that to me sometimes.
Yeah,
Seriously,
this is just more of like an ancient technique.
And I'm not slow or stupid, but sometimes I'm like, what? Like, can we really repeat that again? Like, maybe we need to switch some words around. Like, something's not clicking there.
So yeah, I mean, like that, but it took me I heard that story like maybe 50 times. And for the life of me, like, I went years not understanding until I arrived at my own, because when you hear these stories,
one day they're going to make sense to me.
One day they're going to make sense to you.
Wow.
One day,
I'm looking forward to that. I'll tell you guys when that happens.
One day it comes to you. That's what's so amazing about koans.
Well, that's how awakening is. That's how that's also how spiritual experiences are.
Exactly. Like, you can feel yourself evolve, because when you get it, you can look back to a point when it made no sense to you at all, and you're like, wow.
I feel like that about getting arrested. And then looking back now, I thought it was the end of the world. Looking back now, it's like the best thing that ever happened to me. That's why I'm sitting here right now.
Because, you know what I mean? Right. Because life itself is a koan. Huh. And that is one of Zen's...
That's interesting, isn't it, though?
So, life itself is a koan. And we use koans within the koan. So, the third one that I have, and I try to keep the third one like just a little bit more simplistic, I suppose, but like it's still fun if it's challenging. But how does one overcome desire without desiring not to desire? That's the third one. How does one overcome desire without desiring not to desire?
That's almost like the back-ass words. Law of attraction shit that they teach in The Secret.
But it's freeing. It's a freeing thing, like I'm sure anybody
like
here
you can't
listening
think bad thoughts, but
I'm sure anybody here has seen maybe that meme that's floating around Facebook all the time, and it's a picture of 2 people riding a bus. One person looks sad facing out the window and they see a cliff. And the other person's facing out the other window on the opposite side, looking out over a valley. The one that I love the most, because they always have different dialogues, but the one that I love the most is the one that's sad looking, saying everything is meaningless. And the one that's happy is looking out the window saying everything is meaningless. So you can see something like everything is meaningless as an enslavement to existence
But it can also
itself,
be freeing.
But it can also be freeing.
That makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Hi, Morgan.
Hey, Morgan. Welcome.
What's up?
Okay. Oh, perfect timing. I just kind of went over the koans. If at any point you want to answer the koans, if
they're
you
in the
feel
group,
like it,
you can read them for yourself. He put them in the group last night. They're on the timeline in the group.
Yeah,
on the discussion page.
But like this isn't something that I'm expecting people to arrive at.
They don't particularly interest me. I'm not gonna lie.
Koans. I was just saying,
it's interesting, but it's just not something I feel like spending. It's just not something I'm very interested in spending. I have a lot of shit I could be doing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that I am into and that I would like to learn more of, and
Yeah, I mean, there
are things that challenge me that I enjoy in the same way.
There's so many different practices, and for me, this is a
great point that we both love to make. There's not just one path up the hill.
Exactly. For
there's
me,
a lot of paths. There's a lot of different tools that can be used. There's a lot of different,
Yeah, koans for me is a fun type of meditation because it's not something that you really have to master.
I was thinking trust the process, just like Bree said.
Trust the process.
Trust the process. With that, like, does that? I mean, that's the closest thing you're going to get to not desiring, but you know what I mean, like
letting go.
My thoughts too.
Letting go.
Yeah,
absolute
letting go.
Submission.
That's what that
complete detachment.
But that's what trust the process and living now really is.
Because if you don't have attachment, there's nothing to desire. And I mean, but like
that's a borderline
thing.
This
isn't something that you're like, oh, well, I've detached from these important things in my life, therefore I'm completely detached. I mean,
so instead of being so attached that you desire it, be okay with not having it and happy as hell not having it, but yet still be open to it, which is like a really fine line to walk. And that's, I think, exactly how we manifested each other. At least that's how it seemed to me. You know what I mean? Like sure, it would be nice, but like I'm having a blast right now, and like fuck it, I'll just probably go to priestess training, and who cares? You know what I mean? And then next thing you know.
Yeah, so. It's an amazing thing, like to learn
I'll just join some women's groups. I'll join a coven. I'll be fine. It's crazy how that works.
But yeah, detachment. The thing is,
letting go is part of the manifestation process.
The thing 100%. Is learning how. Like that's the trick, is learning how, because you can become attached to detachment.
Yeah.
Just as you can desire
escapism,
not to desire.
It becomes escapism.
And that's why I feel that it's very important to at least arrive at a certain level of self-awareness before going into deep types of practice. I feel that koans are a great way to bring a level of awareness to yourself, because this is me. I mean, this is just my opinion based on my experiences. I don't expect every person on here to find the same things interesting as I do. But for the people that find adventure and thrillment in moments of contemplation, like if you've ever gone and listened to like, the Hermetica, like, Plato's stuff, like there's some teachings out there from some of the greatest philosophers that say things and it seems completely paradoxical and contradictory, but it's seeing through that into its deeper meaning, just as when you see the yin and the yang symbol for what it truly stands for. And if you understand what the yin and the yang stand for, then there really isn't anything else to...
It's balance.
Right. Well, I'm
balance.
Once you understand that level of balance,
on a metaphysical level,
you're right. It's about understanding that level of balance,
which can be a lot of destruction. Actually, 90% of the time, it's destruction. Balance on a metaphysical level can look like destruction. It's interesting.
It is, because when you see through the illusion of duality, you see that
Everything has its place.
Opposites are completely subjective. Duality, north and south, left and right, all these things are subjective. Truth and lie are subjective, because within every truth there is a lie, and within every lie there is also truth. Because of our clumsiness with grammar and the way in which we conceptualize things, we are so quick to label something. But when you walk outside, you don't find that the road has feet or yards. We gave identity to our environment, and these identities are illusions because of the way we gave it its measurements. We put everything into a specific kind of category of well, with anything, just with anything in general. But and the same goes for us. It's about learning how to let go of that identity and to rise above that a level of connecting to that identity and learning to detach yourself from the conceptualized idea of what you thought that you were. And that's kind of what these koans do, and other practices as well. I just kind of wanted to start off with koans because it can be fun, it can be
confusing,
it can be simplistically complex, but
sometimes I just need shit to be simple.
Well, I suppose that's the difference in the level of patience between someone like you and someone like me,
I try.
and like some of the people that have been participating in this. Either that you want things simple because you have more patience for things that are simple, or maybe you're like a person that loves the challenge,
or maybe you're just tired.
Or maybe you're just tired.
Yeah.
And we'll work on that tomorrow. Because it's
sometimes I get lazy, like I don't want to think that hard.
It's okay to procrastinate, because really,
I'm not gonna lie, I know my faults. I'm impatient too, but sometimes I'm just flat out lazy.
But eventually, as we were initially saying, koans are something that is given to you, and they're given to you in ways of impossibility, to students, and then they're giving levels. And then they're given koans that are easier, so that when the student arrives at the easier ones, they feel more confident. They'll eventually arrive at the ones that seemed impossible initially. Sure. So this is something that in this practice, especially in it's
like a black belt in karate. Like you get levels from the belt. Yes. From the martial arts is very similar in the way it's set up spiritually.
You gotta climb the ladder, and eventually one day it hits you. Like I was talking last night
Thinking
about
is hard sometimes, man.
Last night I was talking about
sometimes I'm just like
the commandment thing, where about the first 2 commandments, and if you missed that, you can go back to last night's live and catch up on the things we talked about last night. But who was here again? Mandy, you said?
No, Bree, and I think Morgan's here.
Morgan. I knew it started with an M. I'm so sorry.
No, Mandy was here last night, so it's easy to get confused.
So the 3 koans. Did you, since both of you are here, and I've already gone over the 3 already, I'm just curious. I'm always curious, like, to hear people's answers, and if you wanted to not share them tonight because you want more time to kind of think on it, that's absolutely fine. But
we can always have the rest of the discussion in the comments for anybody who's watching the replay. 100%. Put all your comments in the comment section.
True.
We will totally come in and hang out in the comment section.
But for the people that, for anybody who is interested, what is the sound of one hand? Does anybody have an idea of that, or do we want to skip that one tonight?
I'm going to skip thinking. I just after preparing the master class and working full time and trying to like it because if I wasn't actually doing work, I was thinking about doing work and like worrying about whether I was getting things done that needed to get done. I tire myself out, man. I tired myself out. Yeah, Bree told us what she thought about her.
Okay, so for the first one, I guess I missed that
silence. Yeah,
sound of one hand.
Silence. I mean, that's the only thing I could come up with too. I mean,
silence
at this point, wind, right? What is it for you? Tell us what yours is.
To be honest with you, I thought it was air too.
Yeah,
and because breath.
It seems like it can't be that simple.
I mean,
yeah, breath, like the breath of life.
Mm-hmm. Because when you sit in silence, you are clapping with nature. You are in tune with it. So the sound of one hand would be the same thing as
the sound of ease and flow.
Right. Not willful chaos, but a peaceful chaos.
Letting go.
Because and I use the word chaos not as a sense of like, catastrophe, and chaos doesn't have to be destruction. There's order chaos. There is harmonious chaos. It's a order. And when you are in tune with nature,
that's interesting.
There is that order.
There is.
There's that order.
We talk about natural law and
yes. I could go on and on about it because it's.
We talked about communing with nature the other night too.
Yep. Yeah. So
it all has a spirit. Like nature has its own consciousness.
Yes.
Nature all things does. In nature do, and nature does. So it's like nature has its own collective conscious, and then nature has its individual consciousnesses in all the different forms of life on Earth, just like just like us too. And then
yes, we
and then the planet herself has a consciousness.
We absolutely, as human beings, downplay the role that nature has because science, and I talked about this before too on here, science has convinced a majority of us, especially here in Western culture, that everything is a fluke. The universe is an orphan. It has no mother and father.
None of the shit's an accident. I don't believe that for a minute.
Therefore, energy is more like a libido of blind lust. It's
always striving to create more life.
But it doesn't unconsciously because it has no awareness of itself. Because therefore, it's a stupid, non-intelligent universe. And this is what science has been telling us through things like theories as the Big Bang. That everything was absolutely random. And, like 13.5 billion years ago, and then we are just a fluke way on the edge of a random galaxy, and really nothing means
we're an
anything.
Accident of nature. Yeah. I don't believe that.
We are randomness.
Not just us, but the rest of life on Earth too. And Earth herself, an accident of nature, which just doesn't sound right.
And that's a really sad way to look at reality.
My coworker is calling. I'm gonna have to answer this.
Okay.
He always needs something.
Business calls, huh?
I don't know what he needs right now, but he's working tomorrow morning, so let me find out. Excuse me, guys. Hey, Bob, what's up?
So,
you there? Sorry.
It's always something. No, you're fine.
You're fine. I'll call him back and find out what he needs.
As I was saying though, it's unfortunate this is what people think, and this creates a level of perpetual anxiety. But on the other end of that theory, there is the other theory, and I mentioned this the other night as well, that there's the newer mythology that everything was created by an omnipotent father figure to a sense that is like Big Brother, He created everything out of nothing for no apparent reason. And he created it out of love, but he created it out of grace, but he is threatened by the creation unless they are obedient to the commandments and to the uh, instructions that was given to us. And I was raised in this mythology. Growing up in a Christian home, I was taught that there's a father figure above, kind of like Big Brother. He's always watching. He's always expecting you to do the right thing and be a good person. And if you slip, if you fail at doing this, then there's eternal consequences to pay. And I always, since I was a kid, struggled with this concept that we're loved and that we are all children of God. But, and there's always that catch. There's always that little hook where it's like, there's that, that we're his creation, but we are in a sense on probation. And the father figure above, who's completely infinite and omnipotent and forever, unconditional loving, has this attitude that this is going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. And I had a hard time buying that, because what jived with me was that this God apparently that became flesh was a totally different being and had a totally different personality than that. And he came without prerequisites and was the example of what we all should be, or what we could be, the potential to be. And it didn't make any sense to me growing up that this was the reality that we actually lived in. So that's the only reason why I am sharing this randomly right now, was because at one point I definitely want to touch on the topic of religious trauma syndrome. I feel that it's important to address this because there's a lot of people, I think, that are trying to recover from a conditioning.
Fear mongering. Yeah, that's it. And keeping you feeling small, because if you feel small and you feel unworthy, then you won't be aware of how much power you have. You'll never realize. If you're unworthy, you'll never realize the kind of power you have. And if you do, you will feel too guilty or too shameful or too afraid to use it. And that's just, governments do it too. Yeah, governments, churches, it's all the same thing. It just, we are God. You're 100% right. It's just when people say, like, it kills me that a lot of people think the government does this and that the church doesn't, which is crazy, because I feel like, at least in the United States, the church taught the government how to do that shit, because you know what I mean? Our founding fathers weren't Christians. They weren't into organized religion because of how that can be. And that's why they designed, the country the way they did, even though people think it went the other way around. It didn't. And then the next thing you know.
Yes, and yeah, we are. And it's amazing to me how careful people have to be when they actually realize that that's what they are. I mean, you can't just go around sharing that realization, that embodiment that you feel when you express, well, I am God. People, that's a no-no, especially here in Western culture. You don't say that you realize that I and the Father are one. That when Jesus, what was true for Jesus was true for us too. And it becomes a dangerous conversation. And it's strange to me that it is, because there's an empowerment to it rather than an unworthiness. And
it is. It's not like, if you tell most of these people, if you say, like, we are all God, we all have God in us, the temple, the temple is within, they act like you're the most stuck up, crazy, out of control egomaniac. And you're like, no, like, you really can't see the world this way. I mean, I don't know why. I guess it's just, It's just hard for them to imagine that, like, you could know that you're divine and at the same time still have utter respect for the divine. You know what I mean? Like, it's possible to know that it is you and still be in total awe of it. We can't actualize the power we have. It's way too great. We'll never know how powerful we are when we're here, I don't think.
See, the other night I expressed this too.
I'm the same way, Brie. I'm the same way. I don't bring myself around people that, you know, insist on misunderstanding me or that don't line up with my values.
You got to protect your energy, for sure.
And when it comes to family, I just put up some strong boundaries and try to have fun and pretend that we don't talk about those things. That's how that works. We just don't talk about those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So we can enjoy each other.
But like, the other night I expressed the same thing. It is, I love this, because you always catch these particular kind of people off guard with it. And it says, Jesus claimed, I and the Father are one. And when he said that, Jews picked up stones to stone Jesus. And Jesus said, many great works have I shown you from the Father. For which one of these do you stone me? And they said, not for works, but for blasphemy. For you, being a man, make yourself God. And then to which Jesus replied to them, is it not written in your law, I have said ye are gods? And he's quoting the 22nd Psalm. And he said, if that is what the scripture says, it cannot be denied. That is the entire thing in a nutshell. Because what it says initially in Greek is, how can I blaspheme when I say that I am a son of God? It doesn't say in the initial Greek version, I am a son of God, or I am a son of God. It says I am in the more recent King James version. It says I am the Son of God.
How the hell is that even possible? Well, this is my thought. How is it possible? It's possible in the same way that we're all the same God, and God split into fractals and made all of us. So I feel like the 3 in 1 are just different aspects of the face of like God. It's just source energy manifested in like 3 different personalities. I mean, that's how I see it, at least.
Yes. Everything's eternity. Everything is.
Everything comes in 3s. Well, most things.
Everything.
It does have truth. I agree. It's just that it's not taken literal. People don't know how to read it. They have no idea how to read what it really is saying. It says, I believe it's about Kundalini energy. And I think it's about and I think it's about, your the ascension period. Like, I think that's what it is. I think that it has to do with the vertebrae in your back and the chi or the Kundalini, I think it has a lot to do with that. And it's also very numerology. There's a lot of numerology in the Bible.
Yeah, the Bible, I believe, is definitely more of a biography of our consciousness.
And that's a great way to put it. I was going to say a blueprint for, awakening, because it kind of is.
Yeah.
Same thing.
It is. I mean, now some people want to take every word of the Bible literally, and I beg to differ. I'm sorry. I do find that there is a sense of divine influence within it, but I do not believe.
Historically, you cannot count on it at all.
It is more symbolic and metaphoric than it is anything else. It's not I'm sure there are stories in there that are literal of things that really did happen, but I think for the most part, it's telling you, if you believe that everything is conscious, then what the Bible is expressing is, like, as I said, it's a biography of our consciousness. It shows you through the happenings of these stories how nature, as a conscious thing in itself, as the universe, as a conscious organism in itself, is setting in motion a cyclical pattern of events that repeat over and over again. And this very cyclical pattern is us on a smaller fractal scale. We do what it does, and it does what we do.
It's been manipulated greatly.
And if we can open our eyes and pay attention and observe and be aware of what we are observing, we can see that what is being taught to us is a explanation as to why things are the way that they are, why we are the way that we are,
what you are.
Because you know what gospel means? Gospel means good news. And the majority of what people believe today, especially here in Western culture with the dominant mythology of Christianity, there is not a single thing I can find as good news in the Gospels, because it is...
Well, then they tell you that they're written by these 4 people, and they tell you all about these people and who they were and how these are their experiences. And then you find out that they have no idea, really. History really has no clue who wrote those 4 books. Like, what? Didn't you guys just stick that down my throat for the last 12 years? You mean to tell me that history has no... You don't know. You're just pretending you know this whole time? That's some bullshit. That type of stuff pisses me off, and that's why you don't get me paying attention to it. I'm serious. Like, I get angry. It makes me mad. Like, you're being manipulative. You know what I mean? Like, fuck out of here. I'm not going to believe anything you say now. I won't be coming there or giving you my money. I'm not either, Brie. Not either. Spiritual, yes. No dogma. There should be no dogma in a spiritual practice. I just feel that. It should be natural. We should be in flow with nature. We should be connected to the planet and to the trees and to the rocks. We should be respecting life in all its forms. We have to get back to that, because if we don't get back to that, we're not going to get back to love. And if we don't get back to love, then we're going to be pretty screwed. You know what I mean? Like, the religions are going to have to break down at some point. Government too, eventually. But I mean, I really think that we need to get rid of the old mythologies and write our own mythology. We're not the same kind of consciousness we were when these mythologies were written. You know what I mean? And it's time to update stuff. Yeah. We know more. We even know more on the level of how things work. Not a lot more, but we know enough more. If you look at quantum physics, you know what I mean? Like, there's proof that there's intelligent life, that there's intelligent thought behind a lot of what goes on a quantum level. I think Absolutely. It depends on how you decipher the what they mean, what the right what their studies mean.
Well, that's the difference between
the different levels of consciousness, I think.
What's the difference? Well, the difference between organized religion and Christianity, organized religion and spirituality is one was developed for people to control people, and the spirituality is about you creating
because it came
your
natural.
Own narrative, and that's not dangerous, actually, because when you speak, if you have a mystical experience like the one that we've been talking about, and anybody that is watching the replay of this video, the mystical experience is what we explained a couple of days ago and last night. The mystical experience is without question a divine intervention. It is a divine influence on your life. So when you speak in authority, you're speaking as an author, and that's all that means. You are,
you're a channel. You're a clear, pure channel.
Yes, you're speaking
for God, Spirit,
and that is exactly what I believe. Anything that is divinely influenced is based off of. We want to throw things into categories as human beings. Well, everyone wants to argue. Well, I believe in the right one. No, I believe in the right one. No, mine's the only one that's right. It's like, well, everybody says that theirs is right. So who am I to believe?
The one that's not hurting people and not bothering people and leaving people the fuck alone.
When you go into yourself, go into yourself, and you give yourself the patience to filter and sift through what resonates as truth for you and what doesn't. And this is how you become the author of your own practices, your own beliefs, of your
This is
own
why
teachings.
I say there's no, I call it witchcraft or magic. There is no rules. There are no rules. Like you literally cannot mess it up when you're running on intuition and intention and natural energy that you know what I mean, that you borrow from the elements or from the spirits of the land, or whatever elementals or devas or whatever, even Mother Earth, you know what I mean? Like you could even go crazy and throw in angels and archangels and ascended masters and gods and goddesses, but they're all energies that are natural, you know what I mean? And yeah. You can even go crazy with it, but there still are really no rules. And there really aren't. I mean, even with correspondences, they're not rules. They're just suggestions based on other people's experiences with things. Like you could totally have your own experience. And that's what attuning to nature is having your own experience with like a certain crystal or a certain plant and realizing what it would support and learning its qualities. And then you use that in your magic. Like that's what natural magic is,
Yep. And one of the things too, like, it's really not talked about a lot, but I know her and I have conversations about this quite often when it comes to, interpretations and misinterpretations. And just she reminded me with what she was just saying, one of the things that people find very no, let me word that differently. One of the things that people find, I think, difficult to understand is what sin actually is.
I did a TikTok on that not too long ago.
Sin is just ignorance of what.
It's just simply not knowing better.
I'll put it this way. You know what karma is? People have this very distorted idea of what karma is. Karma just means action. You're doing, okay? It doesn't mean that, well, you did this, so now you're going to suffer your karma. The karma is not a punishment. It's not a consequence. Karma is something that
that's
happens
Western thinking
based on what you do. So what you do is done back to you.
Yeah.
And that's, so when you see somebody going through something, you got to be careful in which how you see that. Well,
karma is cause and effect.
Is your
That's
karma.
What karma is. Karma is cause and effect. It's the effects of what you caused with your actions.
So, just going real quick back to the point. That's what sin is. Sin is the ignorance of what. You're right there.
Yeah.
Sin is the ignorance of doing something without realizing what you're doing. In other words, if you do something and it has led to a circumstance you wish you had never gotten yourself into, you're like, okay, I learned from that experience. Here's what I learned. If I make this decision, I could potentially continue to end back up in that same place. If you do it again, and you do it again, and you keep ending up in the same place, but you continue to do it again and again, that's what sin is.
That's not, yeah.
Okay. That's what, ignorance is powerful in this, because
sin is a choice if you think of sin in the way that you've been taught to think of sin. But if you think of sin as what it really was meant to, what it really means, you are innocent. You don't know what you're doing is wrong. The innocent people are the ones that are forgiven.
Yeah.
It's the ones that are people that are willfully ignorant. They're ignorant too, to a certain extent, because they don't know what they don't know. But I feel like they're more complicit. That's just my feeling. I didn't write the stuff though. I mean, but because sin means ignorance, it means the things that you do that you don't know you do.
Or for the reason,
not what he does.
Or for the reason,
forgive him. He knows not what he does.
Like, it goes really deep, and I should probably do like a whole video one night on this, because it runs deep. It's not really so much of knowing what the decision is and what it's going to lead to, but it is going to be about knowing that
Yeah, we are.
Let me reword it this way. I apologize. There's just a lot going on, more than usual. It's not so much knowing what's going to happen because you've experienced the outcome in the past. However, if you continue to not know why you have the impulse to do these things and what's driving that impulse, there's still a level of innocence in that. And in that, there is only growth. And that growth, as long as it is a positive growth into the right direction, then it is innocent. So it doesn't matter where you are or what you do. I mean, there's always the yin and the yang. That plays a factor on every level for every single thing that happens in the entire universe. For everything that is, there has to be an isn't. For every left, there's a right. For every back, there's a front. For every wrong, there's a right. And it just goes on and on and on. Everything has a duality. We, as human beings, have our own duality. And the universe itself has its own duality. So what we have just been raised in and a lack of is an understanding to what we are. And then one of the things that Angela and I are very excited about doing is bringing a level of awareness, maybe to a point that maybe has not been introduced into your life, because I lived in, like I said, I was raised in a Christian home, and I did not know. I mean, a lot of people don't know much about anything. I mean, really, we don't know anything about anything. I mean, bottom line, that's the fundamental truth. But everybody's raised in different environments growing up. But it's an amazing story, when you have the black sheep of the family kind of person like myself, who's always been an outcast, even amongst people like myself. I was never like people to begin with. I always had trouble finding a way to fit in, and I didn't really understand that because I thought differently. People acted strange to me. I kind of felt like I've always felt foreign, and I never really understood why. And through most of my childhood, through all of my teens, and all of my a lot of my adulthood, for 34-35 years is what I'm basically trying to say. I was hypnotized into the illusion, and I had no idea what living truly was because of I suppose part of it's the way that you're raised, but at the same time, there's levels to the hypnotism. So it's one of the things that Angela and I both have experience with is being stuck in that cycle and being part of that world. And we want to help people with recognizing that there's a whole different type of reality that actually exists.
Yes, there is.
And that reality,
the one where you have power.
The one you have, yeah.
The one
what she said, the one where you have power. And if
we are not powerless, we did not come here to be powerless. That's ridiculous.
And if you, this is just directed towards anyone listening to the replay of this. If this resonates with you, because there are people out there that we are trying to reach out to. We're reaching out to the people who are seekers on a journey of seeking. That they feel that there's always been something more than what they have been taught, preached about, or conditioned to believe. Like there's something there, and they can't quite identify what that thing is. And the reason why we want to do this is because we can tell you firsthand that it's not something that you find. It's not something that you acquire. It's not something that... It's something random like hiccups or measles. It's like it's something that comes to you in the most unpredictable of moments, where you suddenly realize that everything that you have identified yourself as was just an illusion.
Yes, Brie, it's you becoming alive. It's you coming home to yourself.
It's a rediscovery or
It's
a
a remembering.
remembering. Yeah. And that's very foreign for people to understand, but I can promise you, like, these things have happened all over the world from every different culture, of every different religion, for thousands of years, as far back as writing has even existed. It is part of the human experience, and it happens. And if you're seeking, then you're already on the right path. And we both have been on that journey of seeking and have experienced what this transformation is.
I bought other people's courses that taught. First, I did AA. First, I did the 12 steps. And then I bought other people's courses that were similar to this. So similar to this kind of thing, where there were people that I trusted, I knew, and I resonated with. And we worked together, and I made friends that went through it with me. And now I have like women friends who like think like me and who have life similar than mine, because I couldn't find that like in my community. You know what I mean? It wasn't something that was available to me in another way. And so from the moment that I started connecting with women, especially, but people online in that kind of way, I knew that I wanted to do the same thing for other people. Like right away, I knew that's what I wanted to do as soon as I started to connect with and follow people and like be part of communities. You know, that's not something that I'm not going to go down the street to the Christian church and be part of their community. You know what I mean? And like last time I checked, there wasn't a coven meeting at the town hall. So, you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. You attract your people, you attract your tribe. Exactly. That's what you're doing too, Brie, right?
Yep. Oh, energy attracts energy. You know, so the last one. And then I guess we'll go ahead and call it a night.
Yeah, I'm hungry.
I have one more.
I'm hungry.
Me too. How does one overcome desire without desiring not to desire?
It is amazing.
But Bree already answered this one, so did I read the second one earlier?
You read all three, I believe.
I know I read all three. I can't remember if I specifically or if Bree answered this one.
Yeah, the one with the sound?
That's the hand clapping.
Yeah. Is that the one you're talking about?
Without speaking, without silence, how can you express the truth?
Oh, yeah, we talked about telepathy, remember?
Telepathy. This one's been a little bit more complicated for me because there's all kinds of different...
Vegan. We're vegan, low fat, so we try not to have anything processed at all. The best we can. We eat flour, but bread, like it with the littlest bit of milk. Of oil as possible. We try not to eat oil.
Yeah, we
try not to. It's really hard.
Can be at times, but it's well worth it.
The facial expression she's saying, like facial with the body language is what she said originally.
That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, that slipped my mind.
We eat a lot of vegetables and we eat a lot of grains, like whole grains, and we eat a lot of starches: potatoes, rice, pasta,
potatoes.
We just have pasta that's not made of eggs. We just have it without eggs,
and a lot
eggless egg noodles. We eat them. Lots of veggies. Oh my God, we have so much fun with food. We really do.
Tonight,
I'm gonna go make chickpea avocado salad, and it's kind of like tuna salad, but I'm gonna put capers in there and some pickles in there and cut up onion, a little bit of mustard. It'll be really good. And then put it on like toasted sourdough. That's my new favorite thing. Veggie fried rice is always good. I haven't had fried rice in a while. We don't fry things often. We have an air fryer, but it broke with the plug broke on it. But because we don't use oil, so at least we try not to. I didn't buy it, but if I was going to eat oil, I would buy something that I know is 100% olive oil and not but still, it's still high in fat and low in high in calories and low in nutrition. It just doesn't make sense to eat a whole lot of it.
Well, I don't have anything else at this point.
We could share some recipes though if you want, Brie. At some point.
We're always game for helping people with this.
Yeah, I'll send you some of my favorite recipes if you want to try.
That's one of the things we want to do in
Grapeseed.
the future is talk about our diets and share with people, like, maybe some reasons why we can help you go vegan.
Yeah, share.
And amongst other things, of course.
Yeah, totally. It could be part of the community if when we finally build it up. Because I want to turn I want to keep the free community. We want to run the program with people. We want to get good at this. We want to build a community and build a content library. And then I would love to turn it into a membership. The membership community. Yeah.
There's some great recipes.
And so that's something we could totally put in there. It is a lively life. You could do so many fun things with vegetables and
very
starches
innovative.
And grains.
It's very
I'm
innovative.
more creative now with cooking than I ever was. I have a blast with it too. It's fun.
It is fun.
It's challenging and it's fun. You'd be amazed how good some of those dishes are, and that you don't even miss meat. I don't, at least. Every once in a while, my parents will cook something, and I'm like, "Oh man, that smells so good."
But there's always a good replacement for it.
Yeah,
there's always a really good replacement for it.
Call it manifest it. Yep, that's what we're doing. We would try to manifest it for a while, but then we decided to actually put it into action. So it's not always easy to show up. Sometimes I feel like not showing up. Sometimes I'm just not in the best mood and I just don't feel like it. The minute I make myself do it, I'm fine. It's just that I sometimes really struggle with being seen even, which is weird because I've had groups online for years now and I've been doing lives for years now. I used to do live tarot card readings in random groups before, Oh, that's awesome that you have somebody to cook vegan food for you. It's nice when your partner cooks. We both cook. It's fun. We cook together too. We have a good time with it.
It is fun.
It is. It's fun.
It's a
thanks,
creative.
Brie.
It's creative.
You're the best. Thanks so much for coming in and hanging out with us tonight. We haven't gotten to have a one-on-one conversation with you before, so that was nice to be able to connect with you tonight. We so appreciate it, and it's nice to. I love the friendships that I make online, and that's why I have these communities. That's really at the core of it. Why? Because I can't. Like I said, it's not something that we have here, and I walked away from pretty much everybody I knew. You know what I mean? I talked to very few people that I'm from my past that I'm not related to. Very, very few, and so it's nice because I have better connections with people online than I ever did in person with some people. And I love it. It's great. It's awesome.
Do you have anything else?
No, I'm tired and hungry.
Okay. That makes two of us.
Have a wonderful evening.
And for the people watching the replay, if you've gotten this far, I think I've said it already once, but in case I didn't, drop your answers if you want to do the Koans thing, and that will be the last time I bring that up, and then I'll move on to a different kind of exercise on a different day. But for now, like, if you still want to share, if you missed tonight,
put it in the comments.
Drop it in the comments. That's
Have
all.
A wonderful night.
What's it say?
We're all going to blow out because we're pushing for something big. It is scary. We are pushing for something big. And you know what? Every time I want to be like, no, I'm not going to show up. I'm like, you know what? If you don't, then what's the point? Because you have to show up. It's not going to fall in your lap. So at least you could say you tried, right? At least you can say you put yourself out there and you tried. Because if you don't do that, then you have no chance at all, right? And then I know how manifestation works. And it's like, so if you believe in yourself, which I do, believe in all of us, I know it's 1,000% possible for us to be successful, all of us. I know it might be hard, but if we continue to push and we continue to invest in ourselves and believe in ourselves, the universe literally has to hand it over at some point. So
you're talking about freeze up.
You're talking
about freezing up, like doing
lives, like not wanting to come on live, or you know what I mean. Yeah,
I think. I mean, I'm just going to share this real quick, and then I'll be done. I think the reason why we, especially with spiritual people, I'm not saying that it's only just spiritual people. But I think there's a level of
there's a lot of people that have like soul
it's
aligned
genetic.
businesses.
We carry in our blood the suffering of people who have come before us, or at least have witnessed the suffering who have come before us.
I'm always amazed by stuff
that who has suffered because of their blasphemous claims, when people who have come into a spiritual practice, whether it be through witchcraft, whether it be through,
I'll say it differently,
philosophical, but the thing is, we many have suffered in the name of righteousness.
We've been burned before, and we came back to bring magic back to the world this time, because our ancestors were burned. The women were treated like shit for the last 2,000 years.
It's
especially, we're bringing back the divine feminine. She's been missing, if you can't tell. And it's amazing. It's amazing. I see a lot of it online. My women's group is growing twice as fast as this community group is, and it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I love to see people connect, but we, and it's amazing that we're having a connection in the way that we're able to, with all this advanced technology that just makes the connection so much easier and inconvenient. We still live in a world, though, where we ridicule and even torture people for the different state of consciousness that they live in. We carry that with us through generation to generation. It goes way, way back, because when one person sees the undeniable fact that they have a divine spark that is unified with God, therefore they are one with God, and they want everyone else to see that same fact, that they are God too, because nothing is not divine. There is nothing that is not God. People have been burned, tortured, and on so many things. They have suffered in the,
just because other people didn't want them to mess up the status quo, probably.
Not well, yeah, that too. I mean, that's a whole
that's what's
different
happening in the science net right now. But yeah,
that is a whole
archaeology,
separate
especially
kind of conversation. But to keep us short and simple, though, tonight, it's, yes, there are people out there, a very few of them, that set into motion to eradicate this understanding of what we are and our connection to everything. They basically said one day, the Roman Catholic Church said one day, okay, it was true for Jesus that to be a son of God, but that is it. It ends with him. And he was.
Doesn't that sound ridiculous to you? Like, doesn't that sound like some really cockamamie bullshit? Like, who came up with that one?
And Jesus was pedestalized and kicked upstairs. So what was true for him was not true for anybody. We are all below him, and then we are expected to follow his example without having the colossal advantage of being the son of God or the boss's son. And we kick ourselves in the ass. And one of the ways I've heard it explained before too is Christianity constitutionalized guilt as a virtue. And that is the reason why I want to do religious trauma syndrome, because nothing is more true. Because as long as you keep saying, "Oh, Father, forgive me, I am a miserable sinner. I am but a worm, and I fall short of your glory and your grace," as long as you keep saying that,
you'll give away your power.
You are you are giving away your power. But what they don't realize, they don't realize that at the time when they're admitting this, because in the eyes of the church, that is a healthy person, because you're supposed to admit that. As long as you admit that, then you are healthy. You are on the right track.
Yeah, that's called extortion.
And that's
what it's called.
That type of guilt is considered a virtue. And we want to help people break free of those chains. That is a confinement. That is an imprisonment.
It's called it's extortion. It's slavery.
Extortion. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I will talk.
Love you guys. Have a wonderful night. We're gonna go eat.
Have a good night.